The May 10th, 2017 meeting of the Municipal Code Enforcement Board is called to order. Please stand and for the Pledge of Allegiance. Ladies and gentlemen, the Municipal Code Enforcement Board is charged with conducting hearings to determine whether an alleged violation of the city code has occurred. Decisions made by this quasi-judicial board will be based on evidence and the facts presented tonight. Our meetings are conducted in accordance with Robert's Rules of Order, and each case will begin with the city presenting its evidence of the alleged violation. The respondent will then present his or her case. Both parties will have an opportunity to cross-examine all witnesses. The board members may question any witness, and comments by both parties must be relevant to the case. Persons wishing to speak will be given an opportunity to do so by the chairman and must address the board from the podium after giving your name and address. Upon request, copies of the materials submitted by the staff are available for review. Board members are reminded to obtain permission to speak from the chair, and the questions of the city should be directed to the attorney for the city. At this time, I will ask all persons who expect to give testimony tonight to stand and be sworn in by the Deputy City Clerk.
Please raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm that the testimony or evidence you're about to give or present is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Cases tonight will be taken out of order to accommodate respondents and witnesses present at tonight's meeting. And we will start with the first hearing, please. Oh, wait a minute. Excuse me. Before we start, we do have the approval of the minutes. And I'm assuming everyone here has gone through the minutes for the April 12th, 2017. And may I have a motion?
Make a motion that, excuse me, that the board approve the minutes for the April 12th, 2017 board meeting.
Second.
Okay. Any discussion? Any corrections? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
No, all nays? Any nays? No nays. Is that approved? Okay, now we'll start with the first hearing, please.
Case number 16-5309, City versus Peter A. Schumacher for property located at 459 Aladdin Road. This case has been pulled from tonight's agenda. Case number 17-0552, City versus Bertha Gwen Joyner for property located at 323 South Glenarvan Avenue. The case is before the board based on an alleged violation of Section 6.3 Animal Disturbance. The case will be prosecuted this evening by Code Compliance Director Joe Damian. The city has evidence that the notice of violation and notice of hearing were properly served.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. Joe Damian, Code Compliance Director for the City of Temple Terrace. This case before you this evening has to do with a violation of Section 6-3 of the City Code related to animal disturbance. The case was originated back in, it began in January of 2017 when a complaint form was signed by two of the neighbors in the vicinity of 323 South Glenarvan and submitted to the city for delivery to the respondent.
Excuse me a second.
Yes,
Were we going to do the case, first case?
I
first? Isn't that what you announced? Oh, you pulled it, okay, I'm sorry. Okay, continue, please.
Thank you. Like I said, on January 26, 2017, a complaint form was signed by two neighbors in the neighborhood of 323 South Glenarvan Avenue and submitted to the city in accordance with the provisions of Section 6-7 of the City Code. This report is required to be delivered to the respondent by the police department. Police department attempted to make delivery of the complaint on February 13th, 2017. They were unable to reach anyone at the household. The following day, on February 14th, 2017, the complaint was delivered by the Temple Terrace Police Department by Officer M. Ramirez. The complaint basically requires that the respondent control the activity that is causing the disturbance to the neighborhood within 3 days. On March 15th, 2017, Police Department reports confirmed that barking was heard by Officer De Jesus Colon, and therefore it was delivered to my office, the original complaint plus the report by the Officer De Jesus Colon that there had been a recurrence of the barking. I generated a notice of violation, which is what's required, and to bring it to the Code Enforcement Board. And on April 2nd, 2017, there was another report by the Temple Terrace Police Department where Senior Police Officer Jonathan Miller confirmed that the barking had recurred. We have this evening available a short video that was recorded on that evening when Officer Miller had gone out there that we would like to play for you and submit it into evidence. If you could go ahead with that.
Board will accept that.
Right. According to our records, we also did some research on police department calls to that particular address. There's also evidence that on January 7th, 2017, and on January 25th, 2017, prior to the original complaint being filed, there was 2 responses by PD, one by Officer Miller and the other one by Officer Ramos, and both had confirmed that barking had occurred. At this time, I would like to bring in Officer Miller so he can testify as to his history on the property. Good afternoon, sir. Thank you very much. Could you please introduce yourself?
Yes, sir. I'm Senior Police Officer Justin Miller with the Temple Terrace Police Department.
And I see that you have a couple of reports from historical perspective on your time during which you have been with the force at Temple Terrace Police. Could you please expand a little bit on those reports and what dates you had been out there and what you found?
Yes, sir. I was actually I did research this weekend, and I've discovered that I've been dispatched a total of 3 times to the address of 323 South Glenarvan in reference to the barking dog issue. First being January 7th of 2017, second being March 3rd, 2017, and the final one being April 2nd, 2017. On the March 3rd one, I actually completed a supplemental report to Officer Ramirez's original information report. That was due to, Officer Ramirez completed that report due to the proper service of an animal complaint form to the respondent at 323 South Glenarvan. On that particular day, the reason why I completed a supplemental report is because I verified that the issue of the barking dog post the service of the animal complaint form was still a continuing and ongoing issue. On April 2nd date, that is when you actually saw the video already of when I actually activated my body cam and was recording the dog barking nonstop, as you saw. That time was approximately about 5:50, 5:45 in the morning. All the incidences that I've responded to have all been in the middle of the night, some 2 o'clock in the morning, 5:45, and so on.
Thank you very much.
Yes, sir.
At this time, I would like to invite
Well,
Mr.
before we move on to other witnesses, just wanted to give the respondent an opportunity to ask Officer Miller any questions if the respondent is so inclined.
Is the respondent present?
I'd actually like to ask Mr. Joe a question. As he came out to the house, we spoke on
Okay,
the front porch.
then, is it fair to say that you don't have any questions for Officer Miller then?
I do not have them for
Okay.
Officer Miller.
Does the board, before,
I'd like to ask Officer Miller a question.
well, excuse me.
Excuse me.
Sorry.
Are you-
I'll let him ask.
Are you the respondent?
These are my sons. I'm the respondent.
We all
Lynn
live there.
Joyner. This is my son. He lives with me. This is my oldest son. He's at the house quite often.
Okay, so the respondent, Bertha Gwen Joyner, is the person who's permitted, everyone will have a chance to speak tonight, I promise you.
Okay.
Ms. Joyner, you have the opportunity to cross-examine.
Sure, I have a question. So, how many times have you been to the house and didn't hear the dogs barking? You state that you were there on 2 or 3 occasions and you did hear them barking, but how many times were you there and they weren't barking?
I was never dispatched to your residence for the dogs not barking.
No. There are several times that the police were called to come out because the dogs were barking, and when they came, they weren't barking. There was also, I was told by our,
Mr. Daniel?
yeah, what's his name?
Daniel.
That we would have, the case would be open for a period of 4 or 5 days. The police would be required to ride by and see if they hear the dogs barking. If they don't, they would be closing it. And they rode by. Nobody's making mention of this. They came by at least 4 or 5 times. The dogs were not barking, so supposedly it was closed. They are dogs. I'm not gonna tell you that they don't bark.
Okay, I'm just
But
gonna, just
they
as a
do.
point, just as a point of order, and
Uh-huh.
Ms. Joyner, my name is Tim Garding, by the way, and
Okay.
I represent the city
Uh-huh,
of
I
Temple
got that.
Terrace. And you will certainly have a chance to present your case.
Okay,
But what is happening now, just for purposes of procedure, is we're just giving you an opportunity to cross-examine.
just this one?
Just Officer Miller.
Okay, well,
And for each of the witnesses,
I've
you'll have that
questioned you, but
opportunity,
I
and
don't see
then,
any other police officers here that have been dispatched to the
right.
house.
And so you can certainly make that point when it's your turn
Okay.
to present the case.
And that's all I have for you. Were you the one that came to my house and I invited you in?
No, ma'am.
Okay,
That was Officer Ramirez.
okay. There you have it. That's done
Okay.
done.
Thank you so much,
Thank
I
you.
appreciate it. This will
Good.
speed things along. The city would also like to call as a witness Mr. Delacase.
Do we have it also for the board to ask questions from the?
Absolutely. I'm so sorry, Officer Miller, the board may have some questions for you.
Yes. Go ahead.
You were out there on 3 different occasions.
Yes, sir, I was dispatched.
The question I have is, were there things going on in the neighborhood at that time, that early in the morning or late at night, that would cause the dogs to have reason to be barking, or were they just barking?
They were just barking. There was nothing notated of any kind of disturbances that would cause the dogs to do what a dog does, and, lack of a better term, protect its home or property.
Thank you.
I have a question also. How far away were you when this video was taken?
When I took the video with my body cam, I'm not wearing it now, but it's clipped here on my body. I was actually standing in the neighbor's front yard on the sidewalk. So if 323 is here, I'm standing in front of 321 South Glenarvan, pretty much right next to my patrol vehicle.
Now, would have the dogs known you were there?
No, because I never approached the other or 323 South Glenarvan. Never went into that yard. I stayed over in 321's yard.
Any other questions?
That was my question. How, were the dogs potentially barking at you or the,
Not to my belief, no, sir.
Are the dogs predominantly kept outside from what you could see or what you know?
From my understanding from the previous calls in cases with this residence, I have learned that the dogs are predominantly kept outside at extended periods of time.
Okay, thanks.
And fenced in?
Yes, sir.
Go ahead.
Officer Miller, you're the zone officer?
Yes, sir. I am assigned to Zone 3, which that residence is within.
Yes, sir. How long have you been the zone officer?
For
zone?
that particular zone, I've been an officer of that zone for about 2 years.
Okay. And during that time, other than the complaints that were called to the department, did you notice or hear any barking that was going on at that residence?
None of my normal catch.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Thank you, Chief.
Okay, so the city would also like to call Mr. Delacase.
Dale Delacasse, 321 South Glenarvan.
Thank you so much. I just have a few questions for you, Mr.
Sure.
Delacasse. We've met before. I'm Tim. Nice to see you again.
Nice to see you.
Can you please explain for the board where you live in relation to the respondent?
My house is positioned to the east of the house that we're discussing,
Okay.
right
And-
next door, the house right next door to it.
Okay. And I'm assuming that you've heard the dogs barking. Can you confirm that?
I can confirm that.
And how often do the dogs bark?
Well, originally, there was only one dog, and the dog would howl regularly throughout the day and the evening, all hours of the day and evening. Following the initial complaint, the respondent went out and purchased a second dog, or received a second dog, which is a barker. So that dog actually barks, and the other one howls throughout the day, the evening, including the weekends, throughout the day, at all times.
And how, look, so you say at all times, what is the frequency? Is it, they constantly barking? Is the video reflective of how often the dogs bark throughout the day?
Yes. So you'll have a period of, you could have 10 barks in a row, and then a pause for 30 seconds to a minute, and then you'll get that again. If it would please you, I could play a few of my own recordings.
I think we're okay. We have had one recording. You've confirmed that that's consistent with your experience. Those are all the questions I have for you at
Thank
this
you.
point. You're welcome. Thank you.
Okay, questions from the board? No. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Okay, and just before, Mr. Delacasse, just before you sit down, I just wanted to make sure that I gave Ms. Joyner the opportunity to ask Mr. Delacasse any questions.
Yeah, I have questions, sure.
Okay.
I need to come up there to ask them?
I think that'd be better because there's a microphone.
Okay, that's fine. So, I have several. My first one is,
Does she need to name and address again?
I'm
Nope,
Gwen
she's-
Joyner. I live at 323 South Glenarvan Avenue.
Thank you.
I'm the dog owner. So, how long have you lived over here at 321 South Glenarvan Avenue?
We just passed our one-year anniversary.
Okay, 1 year. In August of 2016, not January, did you or did you not come to my house and tell me that my dog's barking was causing problems between you and your wife's marriage?
No, I did not. I told you that. Were you present at the meeting that I had with your mother?
No.
Okay, so you were the only one there, and I didn't tell you that I was having problems with my wife and my marriage. I said my wife and I were having trouble sleeping.
And what was my response to you at that time?
You looked at me, you put your hand out and said, "You do what you have to do, sir." I said, "That's."
And did I
exactly what
not
did."
tell you at that time, maybe the dog was lonely, I should get another pet, maybe that would make her happier?
And what did I respond to you?
You about fainted in the driveway.
That's right, because why would you want to add a problem to a problem?
How were you dressed?
I have no idea how I was dressed.
I can tell you how you were dressed.
Okay,
You were wearing your fireman outfit,
okay.
okay?
Does that have any bearing on this case, though?
In September of 2016, my gates were left open on different occasions to let the dog out. I've only lived there for 28 years. I've had other dogs, and that's never happened.
Okay.
Do you have anything to do with that?
Nothing at all.
Okay.
What time were those gates left open?
I don't know, I work, Dale,
Okay, so do I.
okay? Did you approach the neighbors requesting them to sign a petition concerning the dog barking?
I
All the
did.
neighbors in the neighborhood behind us.
I did,
Okay. Anyone sign your petition?
yes.
Okay. How were you dressed?
I was in my uniform,
Okay. What were you driving?
my vehicle, my staff vehicle.
Okay. So I have a copy of one of the reports.
Okay,
On 3/3 of 2017, you did state that the dog wasn't barking as much as she used to.
That's correct.
Only a couple of minutes at a time,
that's correct.
okay? On March 2017, March 17th, I was outside putting some chlorine tablets in my pool, and I was throwing the ball several times back and forth to keep the dogs away. Did you start yelling at the dogs because they barked 3 times?
No,
Shut up, shut up, shut up?
no.
And did I yell back at you, no, you shut up? And you ran back in your house?
Hang on a second.
Did all this happen or not?
Excuse me. You were in your backyard.
Mm-hmm, that's correct.
Do you not have a 6-foot fence?
I do.
So you saw me say, "Shut up, shut up, shut up"?
I heard you yell, shut up, dog, shut up, dog, shut up, dog. And then I yelled back to
That
you.
wasn't me.
You shut up.
That wasn't me.
Okay. Are you aware that you have possums in your backyard?
No.
Well, you do.
Do you have videos of that?
Actually, the neighbor that lives behind you, Ellen,
Okay,
has told me that she has a family of possums that live back there, and they were very active here in March because they had babies and they were feeding.
okay.
And on some of the occasions when I did hear the younger dog barking, instead of going out the back door, I began to come out the front door and go between our 2 properties. And I did see them in your property because after you reach a certain point, your floodlights will come on, and you do have possums in your backyard.
Well, in my 12 months, I have not seen a possum.
You ever owned a dog or a pet?
I have.
Okay. I have one last question for you.
Sure.
When's the last time you heard the dogs barking?
This morning.
Really?
Yes, really.
Okay. How many times did they bark?
I couldn't tell you. I didn't count.
1, 2, 5, 10, 30?
More
Because
than-
I was home this morning.
More than 10.
Well, I have to state to you, Dale, that that is not the truth.
Okay,
That's all my questions for Dale.
very good.
Thank you. Okay.
Okay, and the city would also like to just briefly question Ms. Joyner,
Okay.
Okay.
Shall I go back up there?
if you don't mind.
Okay. Sure.
Ms. Joyner, thank you for coming today, obviously. My name's Tim Garding. Again, I'm the attorney for the city. Just a few questions. You saw the video, you heard the video.
Uh-huh. I did.
Is that consistent with your experience with your dogs? Well, let me ask you this. Were those your dogs barking on the video?
One is, the other one is not.
What was the?
Only one dog barks, the other one does howl. She's a Malamute, so she
Okay.
can't bark.
So we heard barking on the video, and that was from your dog?
One of them was.
Okay.
One of them was.
The dog barking on the video was your dog?
I think there was more than one dog barking.
Okay,
because she has a real low, deep voice, so.
okay. And is that consistent with the manner in which your dog barks?
They really don't bark unless there's a reason. They really haven't been barking much at all. The one dog hasn't been howling since I got her because I think maybe she was lonely. When Dale came to my house and stated that he was having a problem in his marriage because they couldn't, the dog was driving him crazy. And I thought, well, maybe she's lonely, maybe she needs a friend. So I bought a young dog to try to rectify the problem. But no, they do not bark all the time. They don't, and I've brought neighbors that live immediately around me also
Okay.
to state whether or not that's true. If there's something like possums or there's cats, or they will probably bark. The one will probably bark, yes. Do
Okay,
they carry on all the time like that? No. And were they carrying on this morning? Absolutely not.
okay. And you mentioned before in your testimony that, or during your questioning, that Mr. Delacoste had observed that the dogs were barking less than they used to. What did you mean by that?
Well, it's in one of the reports there. I think that the police were required to come out after he did the complaint. They were required to make so many visits to see if the dogs were barking, and they weren't. And I believe it was March 3rd that he did state that, because it is in the report that they weren't barking as much as they had. You have to realize, Mr. Dell has already stated to us that he's coming up on the 1-year anniversary, but yet, why did it take so long to get to this point? And I was told by the police that delivered the complaint and by your municipal board member, whoever runs it, that they were going to be closing this after that initial 5 days. But yet here we are, still going at wasting tax dollars or whatever. Dale is just going to keep calling and calling, whether it's the dog or something else. I don't know.
And do you disagree with the testimony of Officer Miller?
I don't know about Officer Miller. I can only tell you that when I'm approached and I'm home, I will tell you if they're barking or not. One night, real late at night, one officer did wake me up, and he said that they were barking, and I don't think that he was being dishonest. I think maybe they were, but shortly thereafter is when I discovered that Dale has a problem with possums. I didn't know that at the time, but I know it now. I
Okay.
saw them. I saw them myself.
Those are all the questions I have for you.
I have one, just a quick,
And I've owned the dog for 6 years. I got her when she was about 10 weeks old.
And so how are the dogs kept? Or do you keep them inside, outside, and when and
They
under what
predominantly do
circumstances?
stay outside, but I let them in the house. They run through, they eat inside. But they predominantly do live outside. They're big dogs. One's 100 pounds, and the little one, I don't think that she's going to get that big, but she could get to be 60 or 70.
Are they kenneled, or do they have free range of the
They
backyard?
have free range.
Okay.
They go in and out. They go in the pool. They
Do you have
have
the
a ceiling
ability?
fan. They have an igloo house. They have everything. They're well
Yeah.
taken care of.
Oh, I don't doubt that you love your dogs and they're well fed and well taken care of. Do you have the ability to bring them inside if needed?
When it gets to be about 30 degrees, I do like to bring them in because it seems like it's too cold, but I'm not sure
Okay.
that for these type dogs it is, because there's a lot of hair. I think maybe that's just me, but, to bring them in, I'm not going to bring them in the house and
Okay.
keep them in the house. I'm not going to do that, no.
I understand. Thank you so much. Those are
Okay.
all the questions I have.
Does the board ask questions at this time or wait for testimony?
I think the board can ask questions of Ms. Joyner when she presents her case. I think that'd be appropriate. The city has no other witnesses to present at this time. However, there are lots of people here that want to speak about this case. I think it would be appropriate to have them speak after Ms. Joyner presents her case with the standard 3-minute instruction.
Okay. Are we at that point?
I think we're at the point where Ms. Joyner can present her case. Sure.
Okay. Ma'am?
Well, it's not really much more to say than I've already said. Basically, I bought the house and I've lived at the house for 28 years. I've never had any complaints with the neighbors. We've all gotten along just fine. It's a very quiet neighborhood. It's a desirable place to live. We actually face the golf course. Since all of this has happened, I have spent a little more time outside, and I am not the only dog owner in the neighborhood. There are many others, and their dogs bark as well. I was a business owner for 16 years. I'm currently a surgical nurse, and I have a flawless reputation. I've never had any run-ins with the law. And I just have one question now that as we continue to go forward with this. Mr. Dell works for the fire department, and in light of everything that's gone on, I'm beginning to have trouble distinguishing between what is personal and what is the city, because he approaches the neighbors in his clothes, driving the vehicle, and it's almost like the city and him are one and the same. So if I have an issue and I have to call for assistance, where does that leave me? Does my call get dropped? You know, is my response time going to be a lot slower? Those are my concerns right now at this point. My dogs, they're not bad dogs. I've got neighbors too that are here that can testify whether or not they bark 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. I'm not home 24 hours a day. I'm just not. But neither is Dale.
Okay. Questions from the board? Ma'am,
Yeah, sure.
just in case we have questions.
You don't have any.
So basically, from what I understand, the dogs are kept outside at night, correct?
Predominantly, yes, they are. You know, sometimes we have cold weather, and I feel like it's too cold for them to stay out, so I'll bring them in and keep them in the laundry room, but they absolutely hate it.
So when they are barking, how quickly do you respond typically, and what would you do to stop them from barking?
Well, typically, they don't bark on and on and on. If they bark, the dogs are usually barking for a reason. On a couple of these occasions, when I came back and I looked at the phone calls that were made from the neighbor Dell, they seem to be every 2 weeks, almost like a clock. And on 2 of those occasions, there was somebody in my backyard and my shed was left open. I keep it locked. It's a double door that overlaps. There wasn't pried open, but there was somebody in there that did open my shed door twice. I did call the police one time and had them come out to look at it. You know, like I'm saying, if they're barking, they're usually barking for a reason. I'm pretty sure on the night that the officer was here and he's got his recording, it wouldn't surprise me. I think it was like January or March 3rd. I believe that that's when the possums were very active, and the neighbor that lives behind Gerald, who is also signed on the complaint, her name is Ellen, and Ellen states to me that she does have a family of possums that live in the yard.
I guess
So
my
it goes
question
back and
was
forth.
more how quickly, if the dog barked
If
for
I
a long
hear
period of
them,
time,
if I hear them, yeah, I mean, you know, I was going out back and they stopped barking, but I stopped doing that. I started going out the front door to see why are they barking.
Right.
You know, the one day that I was outside throwing the ball and putting chlorine tablets in, the dog only barked 3 times because I was throwing the ball and they were excited. You know, and then Dale was outside and he began to yell right away. It was only 3 times. It wasn't this on and on and on stuff that he says is happening. It's just not true. It's not so.
Okay, thank you.
Good.
Ms. Joyner, I'm going to preface my question first by just a little bit of a story. I have 3 dogs too, and there are some dogs, some breeds of dogs that will bark more than other breeds of dogs. I happen to own 2 breeds that bark a lot. One's a German Shepherd, 2 Jack Russells. And I'm a light sleeper, so I have to bring my dogs in at night for the benefit of my neighbors as well as myself. Is there any reason why you couldn't bring your dogs in at night and placate the situation?
They don't like it at the house. Even when I bring them in and it's cold, they
Well,
hate it.
what I have at my home is some crates, and they're almost like furniture. You can buy them that they look like table ends.
Okay, well,
And-
I'm not gonna bring them in at night, okay? I'm not gonna bring them in to satisfy this neighbor. Like he says, he's been here a year, And if you'll look back, he is not calling every day, all day long, and it took him months and months before he started calling, months. So all of a sudden, he got upset. I can't help it. You know, I'm not getting involved in other people's personal problems. I'm just not.
Any other questions? Thank you, ma'am. Okay. So we entertain other,
Yeah,
Witnesses?
I'm certain that other folks want to talk here in the gallery about this particular case. So, if the board is inclined, you can allow everyone to speak and under the 3-minute timeframe.
yes. Okay. Let's go ahead and have anybody on the left-hand side over here would like to speak. Okay, sir, come forward and again, name and address, and also be aware that you do have a 3-minute limit.
Okay. I'm Gerald Thorson. I live at 319 South Glenarvan. And I also did sign that complaint. It did take me a while to do it. There's been many cases. My biggest complaint is when it wakes me up at night at 2 o'clock in the morning, I have to work. That bothers me. I live 2 houses down. I keep my windows closed at night. I can't hear my air conditioning, but I can hear that dog. And other times at 5 o'clock in the morning when I've called the police, that this is unacceptable to me. 2 houses down, windows closed. That's all I got to say.
Okay. Questions from the board? Go ahead.
Does this happen frequently? Excuse me. Does this happen quite frequently, that they are interrupting your sleep and your
Yeah,
rest?
it's quite regular that it happens. Sometimes once a week, sometimes once every 2 weeks. There has been a period when, I don't know, maybe 3 weeks went by that I didn't hear any. It's usually when it's prolonged, when it goes on, and then I can't get back to sleep.
Right. When this is going on, are there other, because you're being awakened, do you know if there's other things going on in the neighborhood, like people traveling through, walking through?
I usually peek out the window in the front. I don't usually see anything, nothing that I've noticed.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thanks.
Yes, you may speak, yes.
Dale Delicasse, 321 South Glenarvan. I did want to respond to Ms. Joyner stating that she's lived there for 20-plus years and she's never had any problem prior to me living there. It's actually false. March 26th of 2014, there was a animal complaint against her property. Comments were, the dog at this address has been barking since 1 o'clock in the morning. At 8:45, the officer went out there, spoke with Ms. Joyner, and she said she'd bring the dog in the house, however, it's not a house dog. So if you'd like, I could present you with this. This is an official document with the city. So the fact that this was not a problem before I moved in is false. This is just one complaint. I can tell you that if we actually picked up the phone and bothered our police department, which is very busy, every time the dog went on a barking tirade, they would have to set up shop over in our neighborhood. Thank you.
Any questions from the board?
Do you agree with the frequency that your neighbor commented upon, once
I-
a week or once every 2 weeks?
I do, and there's periods of time when it is far worse. There's periods of time when it's not as bad. Barking in the middle of the night is still barking in the middle of the night. It means people aren't sleeping. So whether the dog barks 6 times and stops, the damage is done, in my opinion. You're already awake.
And do you feel like that she comes out and says, you know, if it's in the middle of the night, would she come out normally and do anything with the dogs, or just?
Not that I'm aware of. However, I do know that on the occasions that law enforcement has come to the house, they've knocked on her door repeatedly without any answer. So if she's not getting up for the police department to bring the dogs in, I can't imagine she's running out there when they bark 3 times, as she stated, to bring them in. If it would please the board, I have a plethora of recordings that I could let you listen to the howling dog and the barking dog repeatedly barking and howling. That's for you, if you'd like. I do have that.
Okay. The city will let you know if they need that.
Thank you.
Okay. I have a question for the attorney. Does Ms. Joyner have questions for each respondent as we go through, or?
No, we've already presented our case, she's presented her case, so everyone else is just here to make comment with the 3-minute warning. There's no opportunity for either side to do cross-examination.
Okay, very good. Okay. Okay. Any more witnesses on this side? Yes, ma'am. Come forward, please.
My name is Lanny Chizeski. I live at 324 South Burlingame, but it's actually on the corner of Glenarvan and Burlingame. There's a couple things that, it may not be directly involved with the case, but it seems like this is sort of an obsession. And I keep thinking of all the police time that has been taken up with this dog when we have so much crime. And the other thing that I feel like probably Ms. Joyner is not going to get a fair case, because you all know, whatever he's called, the defendant or whatever, I mean, you all know him because he's a city employee. He's a city employee who used his vehicle and his uniform for personal business. I don't know whether it was on city time or not. But I think there's a lot more factors involved than a dog barking. All dogs bark. I don't hear that dog. I hardly ever hear that dog, and I do a lot of yard work. We're up late. I don't hear the dog. I mean, we have on occasion, but not lately. The dog's been great. I've been surprised, you know. It's been really nice and quiet. So, I mean, I don't know, but I really think there are more important things than we could be doing right now than arguing over whether a dog barks or not. So that's all I have. You have a question for me?
I have a question. How far away do you live from the dogs?
Well, as this gentleman lives 2 doors on the other side, I live 2 doors on this side. The only thing is, like I say, I'm on a corner, but I have one neighbor, and then I have Mrs. Joyner.
Okay.
So we're just as close.
Okay. Any other questions? Thank you, ma'am.
Mhm.
Cliff Brown, 403 Belvedere Oval. I live directly behind 219. Those dogs rarely bother me. When I hear them barking, I say, well, gee, that's kind of weird and rare, because I don't hear them. I'm retired. I'm taking care of an 88-year-old father. I'm home all day and most of the nights, of course. And they don't seem a bother to me, I mean, at all. I have a little greenhouse in my backyard. I'm always out back, and they never really bother me. I just wanted to state that. And how many people signed the paper? Oh, okay, thank you.
Okay. Sir, just a second. Any questions?
I have a question.
Yes, good.
I'm sorry, would you please restate, when you say it doesn't bother you, do you mean that you hear the dogs,
I don't
but
even
it's not
hear 'em.
loud enough?
I don't
or
even
you don't hear
hear
them at all?
In the past 2 or 3 months, I have heard them maybe twice, like, 5 in the morning maybe. And since SwiftMud's going to their triple water restrictions, I hope the officer's out there with his camera taking pictures of everybody watering their yard only once a week now.
I may have
Wait,
missed
sir,
it, one other quick-
sir.
I may have missed it. Did you say how closely you live?
I can see his swimming pool on Lanai. I live directly behind him.
Okay.
And,
So 2 houses down?
2 to 3?
actually, our yards are catty corner. The corner of his yard almost touches my yard.
Okay, but again, how far from Miss Joyner?
Miss Joyner,
Yeah.
50 yards maybe. I could throw a baseball and hit it.
Thank you. Any other questions? Okay, thank you, sir. Yes.
Hello, my name is Paul Krzyzewski. I'm at 324 South Burlingame Avenue, which would be 3 doors west of the complainant. Recently, starting in March 24th, I did a lot of work in the backyard, and I'm retired, and I'm outside a lot. And I rarely heard any barking. I have a patio set on the corner of Glenarvan and River, what is it? Burlingame? Oh, that's right, that's my house, okay, good. And anyway, so we're out there a lot. And next door, Jane, she has a swing, and I go there, and sometimes we play Scrabble and so forth, sit on her porch and so on, but I've never heard the dog bark. However, I did this last Saturday and Sunday. Saturday, somebody was pounding, boom, 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 and bark, 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 right? And that lasted for a little bit. And then Sunday morning, it was like 9 or 10. I'm out there, and I was raking the yard and pounding, 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 bark, bark, bark. So tomorrow, I'm going to get a big board at about 10 o'clock in the morning, and I'm going to go boom, boom, boom. I'm going to see if the dog barks. I don't know. But I'm amazed. The dogs, I'm around there a lot, and I just can't believe that that dog causes that much commotion. And I get up at 6 in the morning, I stay up late, but I know in our backyard we have a light, and somehow magically the light will go on. We go out, and it's a possum or somebody going by. And so, you never know, what's in your backyard that would, say cause the dog to bark. So, any questions?
Any questions from the board? No, sir, thank you.
Yeah, it's Burlingame and Glenarvan.
Okay.
Thank you.
Got it. Okay, any more witnesses on this side? Okay, let's go ahead and start on the right-hand side. Witnesses?
My name is Jeff Gibson, 325 South Glenarvan. That's actually my mother's house. It's in a trust, and I'm on the name. My mother fell in January. I actually live in Thonotosassa. My mother fell in January, and I've been spending 7 days a week there at night since then. I was amazed when I heard about this complaint. I sleep in a bedroom that is not from here to that wall from Gwen Joyner's room, where fence that is adjacent to my mother's fence. I live in the country. I have cattle. I have other animals. I have dogs. I'm very aware of when dogs bark. When they bark, I get up and go outside because there's coyotes, other dogs, getting with my stock. I've never been woken up since the end of January through last night, one time by that dog. I've heard the dog bark. And since I heard this complaint, I started paying attention during the day when I'm there. I'm going there now. The dog, I've heard the dog bark not more than one time a day, and it's a single bark. I cleaned my mother's flower bed in the fence adjacent to Gwen Joyner's one afternoon. Had a lot of debris since my father died. I cleaned it. The dog came to the fence, barked one time, stayed at the fence, and never barked again. When I saw the police officer's video, he said there was nothing to disturb that dog. He has no idea. Number one, if it's a German Shepherd, I can tell you my dogs know if there's a man standing 50 yards away behind a fence. A German Shepherd knows he's there. If he's not, he doesn't deserve his German Shepherd stripes. Okay, so he very well could have been making that dog bark. Furthermore, he couldn't see the fence behind the house. He didn't know what was on that fence. He didn't know anything. I have never heard that dog bark as much as it barked in that video, and that is since January 15th. and I am extremely close to that fence. I know the Joiners. They're good people. They raised their sons just like my mother did. But I wouldn't come up here and not tell the truth. I was stunned at this complaint. The dog before barked more. This dog now, since January, whenever, the police officer at 5 o'clock in the morning, 5 o'clock in the morning, people, incidentally, you need to enforce the speed limit laws on Glen Arvin because they're going 50, 60 miles an hour on Glen Arvin. That could be making the dog bark. There's trucks, it's a through street. People missing the junction of Bush and 56th Street, okay? There's joggers, there's bicycle people, there's people going by with noise. I hear them, I'm from the country. That keeps me up way more than the dogs. Car doors opening and closing, the people on the golf course going to work, the sprinklers coming on. It's a noisy place, especially in the early morning, 5, 6 o'clock in the morning. So I told Gwen that I would be happy to come here today and tell that I have not been bothered one time at night. I have heard the dog bark, and it is impossible that that dog bark and me not hear it. Because I hear dogs, and when I hear dogs, I get up and go outside. Because that's the way it is when you have cattle. Any questions? Yes, sir.
So were you in the house the day that the officer recorded the barking?
If it was March 3rd, I would have to know exactly what day March 3rd is, because I was there. She was in the hospital for a couple of days, and then I was there every day. And then my sister-in-law came for a while, and then I went back and I've stayed every day for about a month and a half. And I've kind of slacked off. We've started going to my house for the weekends. But I also know that somebody came in my mother's backyard, opened the gate between us, her house and the Krzyzewskis, and went in the backyard and up to the fence because I saw the footprints. I assume it was a police officer or one of the code enforcement people. I don't know what date that was, but I know somebody was there, and I know they went to the fence. And we have no problem with that. I mean, my mother wouldn't have a problem with that. She also asked me, she's 93. She told me to tell you she doesn't hear the dog too, but she doesn't hear a lot. But I can tell you that dog has not bothered me.
Well, that's why I'm asking. So you think you may have been there that morning?
I might have been.
But you didn't hear any
I'd be
barking?
happy to check the date and call you back. March the 3rd. If it was during the week, pardon? Friday. It's a Friday. The chances are March the 3rd I was there.
But you didn't hear any barking?
No, sir. And the way the dog was barking on the tape, I've never heard that dog bark that much. Okay, I assume that was the dog. I've never, and it was Gwen's house, because I recognized the car. But I've never heard that dog bark that much. I have heard the dog bark. In fact, now, I'm going over there now, we'll be having dinner, because she's afraid to be alone now. We'll be having dinner, and I'll go, oh, the dog barked. I'll never hear the dog again. Because in fact, I started to write it down for you. And at night, again, I'm sleeping with my head to the wall, from here to that wall, from the fence, and I have yet to be woken up by that dog, one time. Now, and I think I hear dogs more than most people. Because if a dog barks, I listen. My dogs bark, I get up and go outside. Any questions?
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Okay, any other witnesses?
This is a statement from Russ, who lives directly behind my mom. He's old, he can't drive at night.
Can you give us the address, please?
So, lives 2 doors down from them on Burlingame.
Okay.
Now I got it here. 318 South Burlingame Avenue. Directly backs up to us. My name is Russ. I live directly behind the Joiners. Our fences back up to each other. I understand a complaint has been filed in regards to their dogs. I rarely hear the dogs bark, and certainly no more than any other dogs in the neighborhood. They recently got another dog, and if anything, it seems to have made the other one relax. The neighbor filing the complaint has approached me in his work truck and fireman uniform, asking me to sign a petition. I told him the dogs don't bother me. That's Russ.
Any other questions? Anything else you'd like to say?
This is from the bug guy who comes out a couple times a month. I've been serving Miss Joyner's home for pest control for 15 years and never hear the dogs bark or act out of a normal dog's life. No excessive barking or howling. If you need more information, please feel free to contact me anytime. Thomas DiCarlo, TNT Pest Control.
Okay. Any questions?
Did you state his name?
Did you state your name and address, please?
I'm Joseph Joyner, 323 South Glenarvan.
Thank you.
My name's Matthew Joyner. I'm also at 323 South Glenarvan Avenue. Back at the beginning of April, around April 6th, I actually moved back in with my mother. I'm also an RN. I get up early. You know, one morning, I guess it wasn't morning. I guess it was around 11 o'clock at night. Shortly after I'd moved in, maybe the following day, I heard the dogs barking. The one dog, sorry, the German Shepherd. Around 11 o'clock at night, I went out and I turned the floodlights on, and I actually did see a possum running across the backyard. The dog was maybe 10 feet away from it, just barking at it. I went out there and, you know, looked to see where it went, but further that night, I didn't hear anything else. I have seen possums in Mr. Dale's yard. You know, you take a flashlight out there. We actually own about 2 feet beyond our fence, so I don't even have to walk in his yard. I can still walk on my yard. Shine a flashlight in the backyard, and you know, you see eyes, 3 or 4 sets of them, and that's, you know, that's absolutely what they're barking at, provided there's not somebody back there provoking them. As my mom mentioned, you know, the gate, or I'm sorry, not the gate, the door on the shed has been opened several times. I've gone back there myself and tried to pull it open, jiggle it open. It's locked. It's got a deadbolt. There's no way, you know, the wind or anything else is opening it. It's absolutely, there's whether or not there's people going through the yard, animals going through the yard, you know, it's completely unknown. As far as distance, I live exactly one double pane window away from the backyard. My bedroom's on the back side of the house. The only time I was awoken was actually several days after that incident. I heard the dog bark a few times. I got up and went to go get something to drink, and I actually heard the doorbell ring. Looked out real quick because I just happened to be in the kitchen, and I looked out down the side and saw somebody walking off. Figured I'd go to the garage and you know, look out the side window, and I saw a person, can't say who, but walking back towards Mr. Dale's yard. I went and I grabbed a handgun, you know, because I don't know if they're trying to rob or whatever. Went outside, nobody there, people are gone. But other than that, I mean, I've been living there, like I said, since April 6th or 7th. And other than those 2 incidences, I haven't heard them at all. Not a single time. You know, occasionally around dinner time, you know, 5:36 in the afternoon, which is when we always feed them, they'll begin to howl. The Alaskan Malamute will howl at the Temple Terrace Fire Department when they start up their sirens. You can hear her howling, and then you sit there and say, oh, well, in 30 seconds, I know I'm gonna hear a fire truck, and sure enough, you do. I can tell you, since I've been living there in the past 3 or 4 weeks, I've seen more fire trucks and ambulances and EMS, police going down our road than I've ever, emergency, of course, lights on, horns blaring, than I've ever seen probably in 10 years combined. You know, it's a quiet neighborhood, and they don't wake me up. So.
Okay. Any questions from the board? Okay, thank you, sir. Okay, you've had
one
your...
more for myself, not to.
Okay, please keep it short.
Yes. This is just for Mr. Joe. We sat out on my front porch for about an hour and spoke relatively loudly, and you hear the dogs bark a single time.
I've been out to the property once to serve one of the notices. I do not remember it being an hour, but I did not hear any barking while the time I was there.
Okay,
And
thank you.
all these complaints that the cops have gone out and heard dogs barking and all the instances, I was told that they've heard barking one time of all the times they've been out there. And Mr. Damian told me that day that, this just, it further makes a case for you when you go in that all the times the cops have been out, they've only heard the dogs bark one time. Where all these other ones have come from, I don't know, but we haven't heard about any of the other instances other than the one that you must see on the video here. But they've been out quite a few times and haven't heard the dogs bark.
Okay. Thank you. Any other questions? Okay. Any other witnesses? Okay. Would you like to continue? Is there anything else you want to say?
We don't have anything else to say. And I think both sides have presented their case, and then the public has had a chance to weigh in, so it's up to the board at this point.
Thank you. Okay. May I have a motion?
Discussion? Is there any discussion?
Well, that comes after the motion. Let me have a question for Joe as far as the compliance issue. Are they in compliance or out of compliance right now?
Well, I have not received any additional complaints about barking to my office. I can share with you the record of the police department. I believe I shared most of the incidents of police, and we have confirmed the records of at least 5 or 6 occasions, and I can go over those if you'd like. I have not, if you don't mind, because I want to be accurate in my response. The last incidence of record was April 2nd, 2017, when this hearing notice was prepared, that we have on file from the police department. Prior to that, we have 1, 2, 3, 4. There were, in total, there was 4 incidents that were recorded where observations of barking was done by the Temple Terrace Police Department. So generally what we come at this point in this matter is what we're seeking is a finding of that the violation did occur after the complaint was served, at least on 2 occasions, and that, I believe, we've brought testimony forward showing that. Now, how a repeat of this would happen, we would have to have another incident where the dog was barking and it was confirmed by either code enforcement staff or Temple Terrace police staff.
Okay. So it's not a matter of them being out of compliance at this time?
You know, right now, I would say if, unless the dog is barking, they would be in compliance.
Okay.
But I guess our question is whether they were in violation in the past, based on the testimony that has been offered today.
Okay, so we're looking for a finding?
Correct.
Not that they're out of compliance now?
Correct.
Okay, just want to make sure the board understood that it is a finding, not a guilty. Okay. So, again, any motions? Sure. Yes.
Me?
Yes.
Yes.
We're at sort of a standoff here between personalities. And I just have a question of whether you can, because you mentioned a couple of things. You are not taking your dogs in to correct the situation because they don't like it. Okay. So you would rather have the police come to your house because of barking dogs than to accommodate your neighbors?
It's not about that. These the dogs are not barking all day. They're not carrying on like he states. I mean, they're just not. You know, I realize I live there, but I have nice windows in the house. You know, maybe they're not waking me up, but I would think that I would hear them if they were barking and carrying on like this. And I have to tell you this, you know, at first I really believed that there was something wrong with the older dog because he told me that she was barking excessively. And so I got a second dog to help her and give her company. You know, in the long run, it's blown up in my face. And, you know, the day that I was outside, and I'm telling you, they barked 3 times, and it was the younger dog, and he began to yell, and I began to wonder, you know, if he's doing things even to excite them. I don't know that, but, you know, I do leave and go to work early, and, you know, I know that in spending more time outside, these are not the only dogs barking. You know, if you go outside at 5:45, you will hear the prayers from the churches that are down off of Sly next to Tampa Bay Tech. And the prayer goes on and on for about a half hour, and the bells ring and ding. I mean, you know, we're not a gated community. We're not deed restricted. I'm sorry that, you know, he bought a house maybe in an area that he can't be happy with, but myself and many of the neighbors that have spoke here on my behalf, we've all lived there for many, many years. Mr. Dell has been here, he said it's coming up on the 1-year mark, or it's just been a year, and the other neighbors have been here for maybe 6 months. You know, that's all I can tell you. I'm not trying to cause problems, but the dogs are not going to be happy to be moved into the house. I mean, they're just not. They're big dogs. They're not little dogs that you can put in like a little crate, because they're not going to get in a crate. You know, I think we've gone beyond that point.
Age-wise.
Like I said, the one dog is 6 years old, and I've had her, you know, ever since she was, you know, 2 and 3 months, about 3 months old. So, you know, it's come to a situation that because I have a new neighbor, I either get rid of the dogs to accommodate him, but, you know, what's it going to be next? And who else's dog? Because there are, like I'm telling you, there are other dogs. And if you go outside, you're going to hear them.
I have another question. When you are out there with the dogs, because the dogs are outside,
Yes.
or when your neighbor is out in his yard, or they have people over and there's talking over there, do your dogs charge at the fence and carry
They
on?
are not aggressive at all, no. I can't have an aggressive dog, no.
Thank you.
But whether he's outside or not, I don't know that either, because I don't pay him any attention at all. I don't even look that way. I look this way.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair, I have a question.
Yes.
Excuse me,
Excuse
Mr.
me.
Joyner, before you sit down.
I'm sorry.
Since one of the biggest things that I've been hearing from several people that testified today has to do with possums and vermin.
We do have possums, yes. There's an elderly woman that lives behind Dale, and there's a family of them. And, you know, I thought maybe about putting some poison out or something, but I just couldn't bring myself, I couldn't do it. I just couldn't. And I figured, well, you know, they've been there for a long time, and they do come back and forth. And if Dale doesn't know it, Melissa knows it, because Melissa even stated it to me one time when I was at her house. So I think they are aware that there
Sure.
are possums.
Well, where I was going to on this is that, have you explored the possibility of a privacy fence?
I have a privacy fence.
do have a
I
privacy
do have a privacy fence, all the way around with a footer underneath. So they're not gonna come in my yard. But that doesn't mean that they're not gonna hear the animals rooting around and feeding. And I mean, you know, when they have babies, they have a clutch, they're gonna be out looking for food. And, you know, that's how I found them actually, was because instead of going out the back door, I began to go out the front door to look and see why are they barking at that fence line between my house and Dale's house. And it's because there are possums. He does have possums going back and forth.
Any other questions? Okay. Let's go back to the motion. Do you have a motion?
I'll make a motion.
Thank you.
Based on the testimony of, excuse me, of Code Compliance Officer Joe Damian and all of the people that have given their name and address presented to the board at this hearing, and the documented evidence received by the board. Excuse me. I make a motion that the board find Gwen Joyner in case 170552 to be guilty of violating sections 6-3 of the city code, but because the situation came into compliance before the date of this hearing, no fine shall be assessed.
Do I hear a second?
I'll second it.
I'm sorry?
I'll second it.
Okay. Any discussion?
Yeah, I'm just curious, so if there's no fine imposed, is there? I think I'm on, right, can you hear me? Okay, so if there's no fine imposed, is there any incentive for this situation to be rectified? What does guilty mean but no fine?
Well, the part as far as the fine, there can be a fine if it's a repeat offense. If they have another citation or any other formal complaint and it's verified, then it can be brought back to us as a repeat. And at that time, we can fine them for a lump sum and continue a fine if they don't come into compliance. And this would be certainly true in cases of the cars parking on the street or in the wrong place, and they move them back and forth just to avoid the fine, things like that.
Okay, so this stance would basically say we're waiting for another violation before we would do anything punitive? Is that what you're saying, basically?
Would you want to explain it any, or?
Sure, I'd be happy to explain. Because they are in compliance, we're looking for a finding of, the city is looking for a finding of guilt in this case. And the effect of that is if there's ever a case in the future, and it would be charged essentially as a repeat violation, and the board under those circumstances is empowered to impose an immediate fine, even if they're in compliance at the time of the hearing.
Okay, thank you.
Any other discussion? Okay, let's have a vote. All in favor? Aye. All opposed? No nays. Okay, it passes. And Mrs. Joyner, do you understand the findings?
Well, I think I understand what you're saying, but what are you looking at? You're looking at like he can call in a year from now, he can call, what? How long are you looking at a period of time? He's telling me that, so I'm in compliance or whatever. And, I'm not opposed to, trying something like a bark collar if that would help. But again, if there are creepy crawlies out at night or whatever, that's the nature of dogs and they're gonna bark. And my dogs are not the only dog that'll bark. There are other dogs. So how long are you looking? And who's to say that it's my dog barking if he decides that a dog is barking? Because there's dogs across the golf course that bark and there are dogs behind me that bark.
Well, again, I think that a case against you would have to be very clear. So I feel you can comply and be in compliance, especially if your sons can help out as far as whenever you do hear barking, to go ahead and respond to it and, see what's going on and to not let it continue. That's, I think, one of the main complaints here is that it's continuing, not just bark and they stop, but it sometimes continues on. And
But
if you
I-
can respond a little bit more, you don't
That's really
necessarily have
not
to bring
the
them
case.
inside, but some type of physical presence to, let them know everything's okay. They're kind of trying to help you too,
Okay.
as animals.
You asked for a period?
Yeah, so, I mean, what are you looking at? Are you looking at this week, next month? What, because,
It's a period of 5 years.
okay.
So, just
I'll get rid of him, okay? Because that's what he wants, and that's what he wanted
No.
from day one. It will make all of you happy, because if I don't, he will call again. He will. He will. I promise
I mean, I'll
you.
just say that, it would not be enough for one single neighbor to call again, for you to be
So I
charged with
have
a repeat
two,
violation.
And I brought how many
You would-
that said they're not waking them up? I
There would
mean,
need to be, through the statute, there would need to be, and the code was followed, you have two people signing it, you have we had police recordings. Have to establish a pretty solid case for
Okay,
it to happen again.
Okay. That's fine.
Okay.
Thank you.
But again, we don't want you to get rid of your dogs. That's not the point. The point is to help them. Okay. Let's continue. Next case. Yes. Okay. Let's take a deep breath. Just about.
Case number 170815, City versus Gisela F. Smith for property located at 510 Hibiscus Drive. The case is before the board based on alleged violation of Section 633A, animal running at large, and Section 104B7, nuisance other maintained. The case will be prosecuted this evening by Officer Omar Cortez. The city has evidence that the notice of violation and notice of hearing were properly served.
Good evening. Omar Cortez, Code Compliance. This case was initiated from a citizen complaint on April 11, 2017. The same day I went to the property, I made contact with Giselle Smith, who is the owner. I showed her a photo copy to her and shows dogs on the streets. Then I asked her if these were her dogs. She did confirm to me those dogs belong to her. I said to her, please keep the dogs inside. Later, on April 25th, 2017, I received another complaint of the dogs being loose. The same day, I went to the property and observed a dog at large on the street barking. I did not see anybody outside, so I went in, knocked on the door, no answer. The dog went back in the yard and kept barking. So on April 27th, I issued a notice of repeat violation and a notice of hearing to the owner's address and hand-delivered both notices to Giselle Smith. This is a repeat violation of the cases 15-960 and 15-1575 and 15-2331. These cases were heard before the Municipal Code Enforcement Board and were found guilty in violation of the city code. At this time, I would like to submit a copy of the order for cases 15-960, 15-1575, and 15-2331.
Okay. Board will accept.
Also, I would like to submit a photographic evidence of the violation taken by the complainant on April 9th, 2017, and it depicts the dogs at large.
Yes. We'll accept.
My inspection on May the 10th, 2017 revealed the dogs are being kept inside, so therefore this is now in compliance with the city code. At this time, I would like to submit the affidavit of compliance dated on May the 10th, 2017.
Board will accept.
And at this time, we're just seeking to get a finding.
Questions from the board?
Yes.
Officer Cortez, are the dogs outside or inside the house?
The dogs are inside the house.
They're inside the house?
Yes.
So how are they getting
They
out of the
are-
house to run around?
They're outside on the streets at large, so they're wandering, roaming throughout the neighborhood.
But I mean, are they kept in the backyard, inside
They're,
a fenced
they are,
area?
some are
or-
kept inside the house and some are kept in the backyard. It's got a chain link fence.
Were you able to ascertain how they were able to get out of the backyard to run loose, or is the gate open, is there holes in the fence?
Everything was closed the time that, on the photographic evidence submitted by the complainant, the dogs were in the streets. The time that I observed them, they were on the front yard or on the street barking. So I got up and knocked on the door. There was no answer. Everything was closed. The dog went back in the carport on the driveway and just stayed there barking.
If I may, because I have also had occasion to see the dogs at large. When I saw them was shortly after Mr. Cortez wrote the case. There was 4 dogs, and when I was there, the door was opened for them. There was one of the residents of the property had just opened the door and let them out, and they all ran across the street, and then they all ran back. So I think that might answer your question. I don't know if Mr. Cortez has anything to add, but we do have one witness that has seen this also, that lives in the neighborhood, that is willing to confirm the fact.
Any other questions?
You got an affidavit of compliance. Compliance meaning that the dogs are back in the yard, or?
They were back inside the house.
Back
These
inside the
are the
house.
ones that I've seen roaming on the streets. They're back inside the house. So as of today, my inspection on today, they're in compliance.
Thanks.
Any other questions? On the past violations of notice of repeat violations, I noticed one was a lump sum of $100,
One was for $100,
and another one was $250?
$250,
Okay.
correct, lump sum.
And was there anything on the first one?
They was found guilty with no fine.
The fine, okay. Okay, so that's a little bit of the history of it. Do you have witnesses that you'd like?
We
to-
have the witnesses, and we also have the owners.
Okay. Okay, you want to go ahead and present your witness?
Good evening. My name is Jim Butine. I live at 516 Hibiscus Drive. I'm probably the neighbor that gets the run-in with the dogs the most because I walk my dog a lot. He takes me 6 to 8 miles a day. And we do walk past the property. My problem started, you know that there's history. It's just different dogs. And then it repeats itself. I started having problems with them being out and coming after my dog, March 8th, 17, 3/20 of 17, 4/9 of 17, and then the last time was 4/14 of 17, and I have called Temple Terrace Police, because it was the time that I was the most afraid, because the door, as I was approaching her property, the door came flying open. 4 dogs came flying out of that house, immediately circling my dog and closing in. That was the time I was the most afraid for my dog. So no pictures, because I was too busy kicking the dogs to get them away from mine. Comes down, I don't like hurting animals, but it comes down to saving mine, I'm gonna save my dog. I've lived at my address for 24 years, and almost 18 years. It's just, dog problems go back to 2002. The county was involved back then. The county is now back involved again. I will say, things have calmed down there considerably within the past week. I'm grateful. The rest of our neighbors are grateful. But again, because it's constantly repeat, we're just tired of it.
Okay.
Any questions?
Any questions?
When you said the dogs came out of the house, were they let out of the house, or they just
Yes.
pushed the door open?
Yes. Temple Terrace Police did come, and one of the residents that lives there was coming up the street as the officer was speaking to me. And he did stop the person and then spoke to him, and he's told me, he said he totally admitted that they purposely let the door open. I'm not her favorite neighbor, let's just put it that way. But it's and I can also confirm the fact many times that I've walked by there, that whether it's this set of dogs or previous sets of dogs, the door's been wide open, and there's no effort to contain them. No one out in the property with the dogs, you know, to make sure that they stay in the property, et cetera.
Any other questions? Go ahead.
And how many dogs do you say they have?
I don't know total count. Someone mentioned that there were now new puppies, so that there could be possibly a number 10 involved. I can't verify that figure, but I've seen at least 5 that I'm aware of.
You said 4 the one time you mentioned.
Most of the time it's 4. They're small dogs, granted, but when you don't train a dog and there's no socialization with a dog, fear grows with a dog, because they are not encountering other humans, other animals. I know, I've had dogs for all my life. You have to work with them. You have to train them. And like I said, because this is just a different set of dogs, same old problem, you know, we're kind of fed up with it.
Any other questions? Thank you, sir.
You're welcome.
Any other witnesses for the city?
No, but I would just ask the last witness to stay here, just in case the respondent would like to ask any questions of him. She does have that opportunity.
Yes.
As the respondent to cross-examine. But we're fine with her presenting her part of the case now.
Okay. Good. May the respondent come forward, please.
Hello.
Hello.
My name is Gisela Smith, and I live in 510 High Biscuit Drive. First, these dogs are not my dog. They belong to somebody. This person be back next Friday back home, and he will be taking the dogs. My dog does not chase his dog and trying to attack him. They are 3-4 pound dogs. They are just puppy. We are trying to get the yard rearranged so we can keep the dogs separate. I bought a pet dog, and this is all I can do right now. He complains all the time. He comes to my yard, and if the dogs are out, we always with the dog. He will call and complain, always looking for trouble. And there's nothing I can do with him. So this is all.
That's your testimony? Okay. Any questions? Go ahead.
I have a question. Sorry to see you back here.
It's okay.
But you said you're keeping some dogs for somebody, maybe you, and how many dogs do you have of your own?
Put your mic.
Right now we have 4 dogs.
You have 4
4.
dogs of your own, and you're keeping how many others?
We have one that just a baby, 6 puppy, and there is 3 in the backyard that belong to somebody.
Okay, so the dogs that were in the house were yours,
Yeah,
and you let them out,
To go to
or
the
someone
bathroom.
let them out. And we've been through this before,
with the puppies.
right? With the dogs, with your problem with dogs, letting them out to the front and letting them run without a leash, without any
They
kind.
don't really
but
run around. They stay on the property.
I'm not 2 years old. I know what dogs do, and I've seen your dogs. They were out in the street, okay?
Yeah, those were.
So you can't say that, well, they never run out in the street. The code is that you're not supposed to let your dogs run free. Free means without a leash, okay? There are ways to take care of the problem, and that is to keep them inside, keep them in the backyard, get an electric fence, whatever you have to do. But it's your responsibility for your dogs, mind you, to, when you let them out, anything could happen. They could get run over, they could get biting somebody. You say they're not mean. Well, you don't know when they're in a strange
They are
situation,
puppies.
okay? So you got to think about your responsibility. This is your 4th time here, 4 times. And you're going to defend it saying, well, they're not mean, they just get out. Well, they came through the door, you let them out. Okay? So I have a hard time just letting you say, well, because you're in compliance, that there's no fine. You understand that? Thank you.
Good. You had a question?
He answered. I have one clarification on the previous cases. That we find them previously?
There were the original case,
Yep.
and then there's repeat cases.
Yep.
And I saw at least 3 repeat cases. And one time, we didn't find the first one.
Okay.
Second one, we fined her $100.
Okay.
Lump sum. Second one, $250
Okay.
lump sum.
Okay. That was just to clarify it.
Okay. I would assume so. Were the fines paid, as far as the question for the city?
Oh, I mean, just to be clear, there was one original violation and then 2 repeats, so we're in the 3rd repeat now.
Oh,
So-
we're in the 3rd one now. Okay.
Yep.
So the
But
first
there's
one
been a
was
total
100.
of, I mean, it's been a total of 4 cases, 2 of which were repeat violations.
Okay. Now, have the fines been paid?
I don't think the fines have been paid.
Have not? Okay. Well, we can also ask you, have you paid your fines?
I can afford to pay.
Okay. Okay, any other questions?
Am I correct in assuming you don't have a fence on your property,
I have a fence, yes.
but
In the backyard
in the backyard?
only?
The dogs could go to the bathroom in the backyard? or-
Yeah,
Okay. But you prefer them to go out the front?
the little ones.
Okay. Any other questions?
Actually, I got one more for him.
Sure.
So you have 4 dogs yourself, 3 dogs are somebody else's, and 6 puppies. So we have 13. I just want to make sure we have that right. Okay.
My dog doesn't go to his house. He come to my house.
I have a question. I assume you have the money to feed the dogs?
Huh?
You have the money to feed the dogs?
Yes.
But you don't have the money to pay the fine?
No, that's
Okay.
extra.
Just curious.
Any other questions? Do you have any questions of our
No,
witness?
sir. Just be considerate of the situation.
Okay. Okay. Okay, thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Any other questions for the city?
I do have one, I guess, either for Mr. Cortez or Mr. Damian. This isn't considered a repeat violation?
No, it is.
No, absolutely.
Okay.
It's
that's
a
what I-
repeat.
Okay.
Okay, and also on the bottom of the repeat violation, notice that we can impose a fine up to $500 per day that the violation is out of compliance.
Okay.
And as far as the city again, can you clarify how many days would you say they were out of compliance? As far as,
Well, I guess the only thing that we can confirm is when we saw the dogs. I know that I saw them at least on one occasion, and Mr. Cortez saw them on one occasion.
so at least 2 occasions?
Yes, sir.
2 days. Okay. Any other questions? Okay, let's have a motion. Okay, motion. Okay. Would someone like to make a motion? You want to do it?
I don't want to, but I would.
Just a little upset, so I was afraid I might,
Based, who was it? Based on the testimony of Code Compliance Officer Omar Cortez and Gisela Smith presented to the board at this hearing and the document evidence received by the board, I make a motion that the board find Gisela F. Smith in case 170815 of the city to be a repeat of a violation of section 6-3 sub A and 10-4 sub B sub 7 of the city code and assess a fine in the amount of lump sum of $250 against the respondent for the day that the repeat violation existed prior to this hearing and
Yeah, there were 2 days.
and with the additional day, which shall continue, well, it won't accrue because it's a lump sum. And because the case was brought into compliance, the lump sum fee of $250 will be assessed.
Okay. Can you clarify that as far as each day?
It's
Or for
$200,
2 days?
$250 lump sum.
Okay.
1 day, 2 days, 10 days, it's
Okay, got it. Okay. And here any second?
I'll second.
Discussion? Yes.
Wasn't the last fine we did 250? The first fine was 100, the second fine was 250, and now we're doing 250 again, and we haven't collected anything yet.
Correct.
I would say, in my opinion, we should raise the fine.
Okay.
They say they're not going to pay it, but we have 13 dogs running around a property. I mean, there's got to be money there somewhere. So I would say my suggestion would be to raise it.
To what?
500.
Per day? Or
500
just
lump sum.
Very unfair.
Okay, any other discussion? You agree? Well, it's not a motion yet. We have to vote on the motion before us. Any other discussion? Okay, let's have a vote. All in favor?
Aye.
So 1, 2, 3. All opposed?
Nay.
2, nay. 4 nays.
I'm sorry, were we voting on the original motion?
Yes.
Oh, I'm sorry, I vote nay. Change my vote to nay. on the
Change it to
original.
no, nay.
Mine's nay too.
All right, so 2 more. Let's revote. Okay.
Sorry about that.
Okay. Original motion for $250 for the lump sum. All in favor?
Aye.
So we have 2. Okay. All, and not in favor, nay?
Nay.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay. Okay, that does not pass, and may I have another motion.
can I just change the lump sum amount, or we need to go back to the whole motion?
Let's do the whole motion.
Do the whole motion?
Yep.
Okay. Based on the testimony of Code Compliance Officer Cortez and Gisela F. Smith, presented to the board at this hearing, and the documentary evidence received by the board, I make a motion that the board find Gisela F. Smith in case number 17-0815 to be guilty of, oh wait, wrong one. Guilty of violation of the code section 10-4 subsection B, 6-33 subsection A, and assess a fine, a lump sum fine in the amount of $500 against the respondent for the days the repeat violation existed prior to this hearing.
Second. Any discussion? Okay, let's have a vote. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
Nay.
2 nays. Yep. Okay, so that passes. And ma'am, do you understand this is a finding and that you still are open for more repeat violations if you don't correct the situation? And we strongly urge that you try to correct the situation. You know, try to keep the animals at least in the fenced areas. Don't just open the door and let them out. You need more control over them, please. That's what we're looking for. Okay? Okay, thank you. Okay, next case.
Case number 170570, City versus Milford B. Collins for property located at 10046 North 52nd Street. The case is before the board based on an alleged violation of Section 810213C, roofs maintained in good repair. The case will be prosecuted this evening by Officer Tom Baroni. The city has evidence that the notice of violation and notice of hearing were properly served.
Tom Baroni, Code Compliance. Good evening. This is a cat case tonight. I only tease him. This case this evening originated proactively on March 17, 2017. My inspection noted a damaged soffit on the second-story front wall. At that time, I left the door hanging with a re-inspection of March 27, 2017. My inspection on the 29th of March noted no change. Therefore, a notice of violation was generated with the compliance date of April 9, 2017. I posted the notice at the front door and requested copies be sent out certified in first-class mail. I also requested a copy be posted at City Hall for the 10-day requirement. My inspection on the 26th of April noted a large hole in the soffit was repaired, but a small section of the soffit still remained out of compliance. At this time, I would like to submit photographic evidence that was taken by me on April 26, 2017. Exhibit number 1 shows a missing soffit.
Board will accept.
Thank you. Good, man. How about you?
As of today's date, there has been no change, and therefore the property remains out of compliance.
Any questions from the board? Do you have the respondent here?
No.
No one's here. Okay. Go ahead.
So you,
This house is occupied?
This is occupied. In fact, he was taken to the board 2 months ago for a trailer at University Townhomes. He showed up for that case, but not tonight.
and you said some repair had been done at some point?
Yes.
So it was
Further
worse
to
than-
the
it was
right,
worse than this?
the soffit was damaged real bad. I think he has some kind of critters inside the roof area. That's what damaged the soffit, and he made that repair, but he left that opening still there. So it still remains out of compliance.
And that would be a very simple repair, wouldn't it?
That's correct. Yeah.
Any
Looks
other
like just
questions?
a couple of boards that need to be replaced, right? Looks like
Couple-
a couple of
Well, they're like panels.
panels.
Yeah, they're vented panels.
Yeah.
Yes.
I guess my question is whether or not, and I don't think you could answer it because it would be to him, whether he understood what the violation was. Maybe he thought that the violation was the area that he repaired.
But it's still, it still remains out of
Right,
compliance.
yeah, just
You know,
a thought I had, so.
right. It's a valid point, but
So
he never called me or anything.
So you can't answer for him because he's not, but he's not here, so we can't ask him.
you haven't spoken to him to ask him why he only did a partial repair?
No.
So he's basically not responsive at all?
No, I haven't responded out to him,
Yeah.
but he hasn't called me either.
Okay, any other questions? Okay, are there any other witnesses or the respondent's not here?
No, no.
Okay. Okay, may I have a motion?
Thank you.
Thank you. Oh, thank you.
Based on the testimony of Code Compliance Officer Tom Barone, presented to the board at this hearing, the documentary evidence received by the board, and make a motion that the board find Milford Collins in case number 17-0570 to be guilty of violating section 8, is that 8? Is it 8 or B? 8-102, subsection 13, subsection C of the city code, and give the respondent until June the 14th to come into compliance with the code section in question. If the property is not brought into compliance by that date, a fine of $25 per day shall begin to accrue on the day following the compliance date, and continue to accrue until the date that the violator provides the city with evidence that the property has been brought into compliance.
Very good.
Second.
Okay. Any discussion? Okay, let's move on. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? No nays? Passes. Next case.
City versus Peter K., case number 170707. City versus Peter K. Martorell for property located at 306 Inverness Avenue. The case is before the board based on alleged violations of sections 810213C, roofs maintained in good repair, section 12861B7, fences appearance, section 1031, unlawful practices generally, section 857D, fire safety posting addresses, and section 810213B, exterior walls maintained in good repair. The case will be prosecuted this evening by Officer Barone. The city has evidence that the notice of violation and notice of hearing were properly served.
Good evening, Tom Barone, Code Compliance. This case this evening originated proactively on March 30th, 2017. My inspection that morning revealed that the PVC fence, the fascia boards, and the exterior walls were stained. The north roof area had vegetation and vines growing on the exterior walls. The hedge branches were obstructing the sidewalk located in the front yard. I also noted that the home had no address posted at the front of the house. At that time, I issued 3 door hangers with a reinspection date of April 17, 2017. My morning inspection on the 18th of April noted no change. Therefore, a notice of violation was prepared that same day with a compliance date of April 28, 2017. I hand-delivered the notice to the owner's brother, and on my inspection on the 28th of April, noted no change. At this time, I would like to submit photographic evidence of the violations taken by me on April 28, 2017. My exhibit number 1 shows a stained PVC fence. Exhibit number 2 shows stained exterior walls. Exhibit number 3 shows the fascia boards and unmanicured vines on the exterior walls. Exhibit number 4 notes the vegetation growing on the rooftop. Exhibit number 5 shows the front exterior wall without an address posted. And exhibit number 6 shows the tree branches obstructing the sidewalk area.
Board will accept.
Okay.
You were busy taking pictures.
Yes. As of this date, all the violations are now in compliance, and I would like to submit an affidavit of compliance. Also, the owner did visit our office on Tuesday afternoon, spoke to Mr. Damien and myself, and he requested that I submit these photos taken of the property that he would like to submit to the board to show the property, what it looks as of today. So
Very
I'd like
good.
to submit that.
Yes, board would like to see those. We accept.
Also, I'm going to submit the affidavit of compliance.
Yes, we'll accept that also.
I just want to say the owner did step up and take care of the property, as you can see in the photos.
Did a very good
They
job.
did a very good job.
Is that him on the roof?
No. If you think it is, you need glasses then. Yes, yes, the property is in compliance.
Yes. So we need just a finding.
That's correct.
Okay. Okay. Any questions from the board? Good.
Any
No.
questions?
Make a motion.
Okay, just a second. Any other questions from the board? Okay, go ahead. Motion,
Thank
please.
you.
Yes, thank you.
Based on the testimony of code compliance Tom Barone presented to the board at this meeting, the documented evidence received by the board, I make a motion that the board find Peter K. Martorell in case number 17-0707 to be guilty of violating sections 8-102-13C, 12-861B-7, 1031, 857D, 8-102-13B. But because the property was brought into compliance before the date of this hearing, no fine shall be assessed.
Okay, have a second? Okay. Any discussion? Okay, let's have a vote. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
All right, we're moving on.
No nays? Yes, please.
Make up for that hour and 15 minutes I wasted.
Okay, next case, please.
Case number 170723, City versus Benjamin and Amanda Payne, Don P. and Peggy W. Graham for property located at 8208 Volusia Place. The case is before the board based on alleged violation of sections 12861B7 fences appearance. The case will be prosecuted this evening by Officer Scrozo. The city has evidence that the notice of violation and notice of hearing were properly served.
Good evening. Yes, Hal Scrozo, Code Compliance. This case was initiated proactively on March 30th, 2017, when I observed a fence in disrepair along the west side of the property. At this time, I issued a door hanger with a reinspection date of April 10th. My inspection on April 18th revealed no change, and therefore I issued a notice of violation the same day and gave the respondent until April 28th to bring the property into compliance with city code. I posted the notice at the home, and I mailed copies, both certified and regular mail, to the property owner's address, and I also requested a notice be posted at City Hall for the required length of time. My inspection on April 28th revealed no change. At this time, I would like to submit photographic evidence of the violation taken by me on April 28th, 2017. The photo labeled Exhibit 1 depicts the fence along the west side of the property in disrepair.
The board will accept. Thank you.
Thank you. Today's inspection revealed no change, and therefore the property remains out of compliance.
Any questions from the board? Yes.
Is the house occupied?
It was occupied, but there's signs now that it's no longer occupied. There is a foreclosure, March of 2017. We did find a list pendants, and we believe that maybe the tenants have moved out. There's evidence at the front door with old newspapers and things like that. So we're concerned about that, and we'll certainly keep a close eye on that property.
Have you had any contact at all with
None at all.
anybody from
Unfortunately
that?
not.
Okay. Any other questions? Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
And may I have a motion?
Based on the testimony of Code Compliance Officer Sal Scarozzo, presented to the board at this hearing and the documentary evidence received by the board, I make a motion that the board find Benjamin and Amanda Payne, Don P. and Peggy W. Graham in case 17-0723 to be guilty of violating sections 10-3 sub B of the city code and give the respondent until
Can you read the violation code again, please?
Excuse me, sorry, I dropped the cap. The code section, excuse me, was wrong, is being corrected. Section 12-861 sub B sub 7 fences
Thank you.
of the city code and give the respondent until the June 14th meeting to come into compliance with the code section in question. If the property is not brought into compliance by that date, a fine of $50 per day shall begin to accrue on June 15th and continue to accrue until the date the violator provides the city with evidence that the property has been brought into compliance.
Second. Any discussion? Okay, let's have a vote. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? No nays? Passes. Next case, please.
What was the fine amount?
50.
Case number 170758, the city versus Jacqueline D. and Andres Munera for property located at 110 Mission Hills Avenue. The case is before the board based on alleged violation of Section 10-3B sanitation grass weeds. The case will be prosecuted this evening by Officer Baroni. The city has evidence that the notice of violation and notice of hearing were properly served.
Good evening, Tom Baroni, Code Compliance. This case this evening originated proactively on April 4th, 2017. My inspection that morning noted overgrown weeds primarily on the east side of the property. At that time, I issued a door hanger with the compliance date of April 7th, 2017. My reinspection on April 18th, 2017 noted no change, therefore a notice of violation was prepared with the compliance date of April 24th, 2017. I had posted the notice at the front door and requested copies be sent certified in first-class mail. I also requested a copy be posted at City Hall for the 10-day requirement. My return visit on April 28th, 2017 noted no change. At this time, I'd like to submit photographic evidence of the violation taken by me on April 28th, 2017, showing overgrown weeds in the side yard.
Board will accept.
My inspection on Monday, May 1st, noted that the yard had been mowed, putting the property into compliance, which I would like to submit an affidavit of compliance.
Board will accept. And you are seeking
And this is
finding.
final, yes.
Any questions from the board? Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, may I have a motion?
Based on the testimony of Code Compliance Officer Tom Barone presented to the board at this hearing and the documentary evidence received by the board, I make a motion that the board find Jacqueline D. and Andres Munera in case number 17-0758 to be guilty of violating section 10-3 subsection B of the city code, but because the property was brought into compliance before the date of this hearing, no fine shall be assessed.
Second.
Okay. Any discussion? Okay, let's have a vote. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? No nays? Passes. And just to be clear, the very first case was withdrawn.
Yes.
Okay. All right, let's move on.
Unfinished?
Yes, go ahead. Unfinished business.
Case number 162397, City versus Dudley A. Black for property located at 9408 Hidden Ridge Place. An affidavit of noncompliance and an affidavit of compliance was submitted by Officer Barone dated April 12th, 2017, so there's partial compliance. Case number 170248, City versus Deutsche Bank, Trust Company America's trustee, CO, PNC Bank N.A. for property located at 6214 Tanager Place. Expiration of compliance is tonight at midnight. Case number 170280, City versus Temple Terrace Associates LLC, CO, Buckingham Properties, RMC Property Group, registered agent for property located at 9281 North 56th Street. The expiration of compliance is tonight at midnight. Case number 170469, City versus Nathan A. Meyer for property located at 107 South Greenfield Avenue. The expiration of compliance is tonight at midnight.
Okay. Any questions from the board? Okay. Let's move on to other board action. Consideration of amnesty program applications. Why don't you go ahead and tell us what proceedings you were looking for?
Yes, sir.
Buzz?
I just want to briefly, remind the board that on January 17th of 2017, the City Council approved Resolution 9-17, approving an amnesty program for property owners that have been in violation for long periods of time. And the gist of the program, that if those people who had properties out of compliance brought them into compliance within a 90-day period that started on April 1st and ends June 30th, they would be eligible for this amnesty program. The amnesty program is very specific. The council has given us very direct guidelines in the resolution, and the administration has gone through 6 applications that have been submitted for this amnesty program to see if they complied with the terms and conditions of that amnesty program, which includes specific reduction amounts based on criteria that's also included in the resolution. So before you tonight, we will be presenting a total of 5 applications. There was one that was withdrawn by the city at the recommendation of our city attorney, because I believe that there may be the lien may have been extinguished by operation of law. So I will present the others in the order that they, I believe, hopefully in the order that they appear on the agenda. And I'll briefly go through each one. The first one is for a property at 11920 Davis Road, case number 152563. The application was properly received. It was fully vetted by the deputy city clerk and myself to make sure it met the program requirements. And on this first application, I'm going to go through the program requirements. I think the rest of them, once we do the first one, you'll understand. The application was received on or before June 30th, 2017, which is part of the requirement. The application was fully completed and executed by the parties that were requesting the reduction. The lien was recorded prior to April 1, 2016, another one of the requirements of the program. The property has remained in full compliance since the application was filed. The ad valorem taxes on the properties have been paid and are not delinquent. All other Temple Terrace properties owned by the applicant are in compliance, and there is no outstanding debt due to the city on any of those properties. We have confirmed that the lien is not a land use, a risk reduction, or a fire alarm case. We confirmed that the city has not initiated any foreclosure action on that lien, and we have confirmed that no arbitration or lawsuit is pending as of April 1st, 2017, when the program began. In this application, the final reduced amount that considered based on the criteria in the program is $3,765, and we are asking you to approve that amount based on that the applicant has met the criteria in the program and has submitted the application properly.
Okay, so you were looking for a vote from
Yeah,
us on each
basically, yeah,
case,
that.
case by case?
Correct. That we've confirmed the application meets the requirements, and this is the amount based on the program requirements that the reduction has to be reduced to.
Any questions from the board?
Oh, go ahead. You go ahead. I was going to make a motion.
Oh, actually, I got a
There's
question.
questions first.
Yeah, I got a question first. From my understanding, most of the amnesty programs that are around other municipalities, the state and everything else, typically were more structured for homestead properties. Most of the cases that we have in ours, 5 out of the 6, are non-homestead.
Correct.
And the reason why I'm asking that is because this could be setting us with a bad precedent for lien reductions in the future. If this amnesty program continues on next year, it kind of would allow people to let their properties go delinquent and then just say, I can get $5,000 max penalty.
This program is for a 3-month period, beginning April 1st and ends June 30th, and it is not expected to continue anytime going forward. It's a one-time program.
Okay.
Right, and just to dovetail real quickly on what he said, and this part of what we discussed at the workshop, which I know you were.
I read all the minutes, though.
Right, right, and I think that the discussion was a little more comprehensive. We had the benefit of Councilmember Ross being there. It's behind this particular resolution, or at least played a large role in it. And, you know, the applications were sent out, the program was sent out to all homeowners that had an unresolved code enforcement lien, including those whose properties are homesteaded. We received 6 applications, 5 met the criteria, which are before you tonight, and it just so happens that most of them are not homesteaded properties. And I think what was cogently explained by Councilmember Ross at the workshop was that that is a concern, obviously, precedent, because people will then just wait for an amnesty program to roll around again. But the part of the driving motivation behind this particular resolution was that it's a one-time program and will, in theory, never be offered again.
You mentioned that that they met the requirements. Some of these don't meet the requirements that are in here.
What do you mean?
Some have unpaid taxes, some have outstanding water bills, and that's kind of
I will speak to those,
Okay.
if you would
Let's do
allow.
by case by case.
Right, and one suggestion I would make too, just as a procedural matter for the board, I think that Director Damian can go through all the applications and the board can just make one vote as to the approval of all that. If all the applications meet the criteria, you can vote. We have withdrawn, and I think Mr. Damian has already indicated that the 4th was numbered as number 4 on the list. It's a foreclosure case, and the lien actually doesn't exist by operation of law anyway.
What's the case number again?
That is item number 4 on the agenda. It's case number 133183 and 141363.
Okay, that's the one I had strong objections to.
All right.
Yeah.
And
But we can
and so
discuss
again,
that later, or it's
well, that one
off the
has been
board?
withdrawn
Withdrawn, okay.
from this agenda.
Okay.
But in
But
order
the
to-
but the other cases are still before the board, and you can approve them with one vote if they all meet the requirements as we go through them.
Okay. Let me take a consensus, the board. Is anybody opposed to doing one vote?
I think they needed to be separate.
Think they need to be separate?
I agree
Well,
with that.
Separate?
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
could we just pull certain ones that we want to take separately and do a consent vote for the rest of them? Consent vote for the rest?
We might as well just do,
Might as
I
well
thought
do
maybe
all.
just to expedite things, let's just do them separately. That works for us.
Let's go ahead and continue.
Well, if you wouldn't mind then, did you want to take a vote on this
Yes.
one first? And
Yes.
in order so we're clear, because some things did change from the time as far as some of the questions that are being asked about outstanding monies, we've updated this based on the most current information. So what I'd like to do is submit the program checklist that I've got and enter this into evidence and use this as what's going to be approved today.
For each case?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Okay.
Board accepts. Okay. While we're checking that out, any questions for this case?
I had a general question.
That's
Just
fine. Go ahead.
my ignorance, would it be possible to briefly describe the legal ramifications of a homesteaded property versus not? I just don't understand what that means as far as what we're deciding here.
Sure, just real briefly, there are lots of legal ramifications of a property being designated as homestead, the most significant of which is a homestead designation protects the property owner from any judgment liens. So, you know, under the Florida Constitution, a creditor, and the city would be a creditor in this instance, can't take your property from you if it's homesteaded based upon an unpaid fine. And that also applies to judgments, civil judgments, those things. So homesteaded properties where we have accruing fines, we can't foreclose on those liens if we are the superior lien holder because of the homestead exemption. So what I think what Board Member Stats was probably referring to is that sometimes with these homesteaded properties, there's not an incentive to get the property into compliance because the thought process is, well, you can't take my property anyway, so, you know, good luck. So that's the difference.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Any other questions? Okay, let's go ahead and have a vote, or, no, excuse me, let's have a motion first, and then a vote on that. Make a motion.
Well, since we don't have a form, I'm gonna wing it.
Okay.
I vote that the board approve the amnesty program processing checklist and application for case number 15-2563 for a property located at 11920 Davis Road. The lien amount is reduced to $3,765.
Okay, do I hear a second?
Second.
Does that, as far as making sure everything's in that motion, is that good? Okay. All right, so we have a second. Any discussion? Let's have a vote.
I just want to make something clarified here.
Yes.
One thing Attorney Gardening mentioned about the homestead, when the property is not homesteaded, the city actually can go after the lien if they chose to. Usually, depending on if there's other liens on the property and stuff like that. And the other thing about these properties is typically most of these properties, they're well aware, but when they buy it, that it hasn't. So we're kind of just giving away a freebie to them right now, trying to get into compliance, which I completely understand, but that's why I recommended we go each case by case, because all of them are going to be different.
Okay. Any other discussion? Let's have a vote. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
Nay.
One nay. Okay, motion passes. Next case, please.
Thank you. I'm going back to the list in order, which I failed to do at the beginning. This will be the first, number one, case number 9218, property known as Lot 13A, River Hills Park, Unit Number 1. Again, this application was fully vetted by staff. It met all criteria. The lien reduction amount, or the original lien amount was $500 based on the formula provided to us and approved by the city council. It is being reduced to $75. The applicant has complied with all program requirements as provided in the city council resolution. And so we're submitting this for your approval in the amount of $75, the final amount. If I may?
Yes. Board will accept. I have one quick question as far as motions. We normally for liens will add on 30 days that they have to pay for this. What's the time frame on this one? On these?
The program provides that amounts that are greater than $1,000, you can pay half of it up front, and you have up to 1 year to pay the balance, as long as during that time, we're not going to release that lien. Most of these applicants have shown an interest in paying this off immediately so they get the lien released. We do not believe we're going to have a problem collecting. But
But for the benefit of the board making motions, the time limit does not need to be announced in the motion. The sole role of the board in this instance, just to make sure that the application meets the requirements of the program.
Okay, fair enough.
Fairly ministerial.
Yes. Okay, any other questions for the city? Okay, let's go ahead and have a motion.
I'll take this one.
Okay.
Based on the amnesty program processing checklist for case number 92-18, property address Lot 13, River Hills Park, Unit 1, and the reduction amount of $75 be approved.
Second?
Second.
Okay. Any discussion?
There you go.
Yes.
I just want to say the $75 doesn't even cover city costs, just so we're all aware. The case is 3 years old.
How does the city feel about that? That's always been one of my goals.
This particular program was intended to get people to come into compliance and give them a break. And it has very specific guidelines. When went before city council, our attorneys looked at the program language. It was vetted. There was agreement based that this was legally sufficient to meet not only the legal requirements as far as what we could look at when we were considering these reductions, and also on the council's recommendations on the amnesty program. So we are basically just following the direction of the council based on the resolution that was approved. And I think deviating from that would go against the council's resolution.
Okay, but basically the council is passing on the
Yes, sir.
cost issue. Okay, good point. Any other discussion? Let's have a vote. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
Nay.
1 nay. Passes. Next case, please.
Next case is number 2 on the agenda, case number 12-2875, property address 12214 North 51st Street. Again, we fully vetted the application for program requirements. We found that it met all the requirements. The original lien amount is $1,000, being reduced to $285, and we recommend approval based on the fact that it has met all of the program criteria as outlined in the resolution. And if I may submit?
Yes, we will accept. Any questions from the board? Okay. I would like to entertain a motion to my left, please.
First of all, there's a correction, I believe, on the lien amount. The original lien amount was $1,900, and I believe that was mentioned as $1,000. Is that correct?
No, that we would have to confirm. Is your original? Let me see.
It's $1,900.
The original?
Yes, it says it on the application.
Two.
If I may?
Yeah, it's 1,900 there.
There's 1,900. That's okay. That's excused.
Even with glasses.
Okay,
Okay, that's right.
as accepted. May I have a motion for the board?
Thank you, Mr. Ritter.
Okay, I'll take a swing at this.
Thank you.
I make a motion, the amnesty program processing checklist, case number 12-2875, at the property address 12214 North 51st Street, be reduced to the amount of $285.
Okay, your second?
I'll second.
Okay, any discussion? Let's have a vote. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
Nay.
2 nays.
Who was the second day?
He's changing to aye.
Oh, that's the same.
Okay, it's 1 nay. Okay, passes. Next case, please.
Third on your agenda, case number 123164, property address 5202 East 122 Avenue. We have confirmed that the applicant has met all of the program requirements. And according to council resolution, the original lien amount was $34,725. That one is capped at $5,000, which is the amount that this reduction is being recommended. So if I may submit?
Yes, the board will accept. And questions from the board?
So the $5,000 is that's just a hard number that you have a cap on for these?
Yes, and I mean, if you, like, there are, the 3 criteria we look at is the original lien amount and what 85% of that would be, if reduced by 85%. We also look at the market value and find out what 15% of that market value.
Right.
And then we check whether that, either one of those 2 numbers exceeds 5,000. So we use the greater of the lesser of the top 2, or $5,000 would be the cap.
Gotcha.
Good. So again, 5,000 is the most that you would charge.
On any case.
So it's not always a true 85%.
No, the cap, if it exceeds that 5,000, 5,000 is the limit on the top end.
Okay. Okay, and that was part of the original?
Council resolution, yes.
Okay, because that's what I was going to ask on this other case that's been withdrawn, because it's 98% of the original amount of the lien, and that didn't really quite follow, or 85%, but it does follow the cap. Okay.
Yes, sir.
Okay, any other questions from the board? Okay, may I have a motion?
All right, I'll give this motion.
Thank you.
I move that the amnesty program processing checklist for case number 12-3164, property address 5202 East 122nd Avenue, for the lien reduction amount of $5,000 be approved.
Second.
Okay, any discussion?
One thing, I just want to say, this one right here is exactly what this program was built for. It's a homesteaded property, the homeowner came into compliance, so kudos to the guys who got involved and got it done.
Well,
I will say
any
too,
other-
this is the Shirley Lee Carr case, which
Yes,
is,
I was going to have a comment on that.
this case alone
I
is worth
find
the
it-
amnesty program.
Yeah, I find it very amazing, and I'd like to ask questions as far as a follow-up. Is this really cleared up? Have you seen the property and been in the property?
Property has been put in compliance.
Really?
Yes.
Wow. So it's easy to walk through, and there's no fire hazard, nothing?
In my opinion, it's in keeping with the requirements of the code.
Wow. I'm impressed. So just out of curiosity, what moved her?
She had a lot of help from a lot of people, and she continues to work in the property. I mean, it's a large house, it's had a lot of stuff inside, but the determination was made that it was substantially in compliance, and therefore we moved ahead and are continuing to work with her on that.
Good, good, because that very first time she came before us, she was very resistant to any type of help, even from her relatives.
It's been a long process.
Yeah, it's been a long process, but very good. Good work. Okay, any other comments? Okay, let's have a vote. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? No nays? Passes. Next case, please.
And just to say a word on the case that was withdrawn, in response to the amnesty application, this particular property owner, new property owner, brought their property into compliance very quickly. In fact, it might have been on parallel tracks where they bought the property, brought it into compliance, received the amnesty application, that further motivated them. It was after, we recently determined that this particular lien no longer exists, but we still saw the benefit of the amnesty program, even though the application won't be saw all the way through.
And
Good.
to add
Good to
a
hear
little
some
bit to that,
plans.
even though it's withdrawn, they were motivated because of the program application to pay the taxes that were due. So that is up to date as of today.
Good. Good work. Okay, next case.
Okay, the last one is number 5 on your agenda, 14-3345. Address is 7503 Okeechobee Court. Administration fully vetted the application. The applicant has met all of the program requirements. The original lien amount, it was $2,700, and based on the criteria for the reduction amount, it came out to $405, which is the appropriate number. And like I said, that case in particular had 2 outstanding amounts due to the city on other properties that are owned by the applicant. Since the time that the package went to you all, we have confirmed that they have approached the city and they've paid off both amounts that were due, one at 7314 Sequoia Drive, going back to 2012 for $66.83, and one at 8518 Renault Boulevard, going back to 2014, an amount of $133.94, which were 2 rental properties. But they have since paid that, and I would like to submit to the board the new checklist, as well as the email that I've received from the utility billing manager confirming that the amounts have been paid.
Good, we accept. Okay, any questions from the board? Okay. May I hear a motion?
Case number 14-3345. I'll make a motion, thank you. I'll make a motion that the bond be, or the lien be reduced to $405 as per the amnesty program checklist.
Okay, very good. Second?
Second.
Okay, any discussion? Yes.
Just want to make one point. It took us 4 years and 2 years to collect the $200 in water bills because we had to reduce their lien down to $400. So I just kind of want the board to keep that in mind, that we're reducing a fee in order to get them to pay their water bill. It kind of doesn't set the best precedent in the world. No. So.
Okay, good point. Any other discussion? Let's have a vote. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
Nay.
1 nay. The program passes.
Thank you
And
very
any
much.
other, would you like to say anything else about the program?
No, sir, I appreciate your time, and thank you very much for your consideration.
I would consider the program very successful. How do you feel about it?
No, so far, it's, I mean, it would be nice to get more people. We still have some out there that they have been unresponsive.
What's the time frame again? What's your time limit?
It goes through June 30th. Application, that would be the deadline for receipt of applications. We will make a second effort to reach some of the people that we've reached out to before. A lot of people aren't accepting our mail, and I think there may be another group out there. Now, there may be a few other applications that have been received, but we just didn't have time to get them on this agenda. But our goal is to try to motivate people to continue to get involved in this between now and the end of June.
Very good.
Thank you.
And thank you, Councilman Ross. Thank you very much for this program. Seems to be working. And any other business, new business? Okay. I would like to personally, on the record, thank everyone here for a great 9 years that I've had. And this board has really, I feel, been very successful, done a good job due to everyone. Code enforcement, director, compliance officers, you've all done a great job. In the support of the council, I thank them. And of course, I thank the board members here. Very good work. And in that light, I would like to pass on the gavel to our new chairman. But before I go, I'd like to make one motion, and that is to adjourn. Okay, so we have a second? Good? Okay. Okay, there we go.
Very good.
Thank you.